Welcome to Politics Done Right on KPFT. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Give me a call at 713-526-5738. That is 713-526-KPFT. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show today. We are going to have a great show. As you guys know, there's a whole lot of stuff happening in the United States of America right now. And you know what? It is not all good. In fact, it's a lot not good. And it's a whole lot of stuff we have to take care of to mitigate all the problems that we created. But before we get started, my brother, my producer, my engineer, Don, how are you doing, my brother?
I am doing great today.
We are going to have a great show. You know what happened this week. For all my folks, we're on. Don't forget, we are on Facebook Live. We're also on kpft.org/listen, and we're on KPFT 90.1 FM here in Houston, Texas. If you're in the metropolitan area, you can reach us. A lot of ways to get to us. And of course, after the show, you can get to the podcast at politicsdoneright.com, at iTunes, at Play, and at everywhere else that you listen to podcasts. But we're going to have a great show. It's kind of warm for December, isn't it?
No, not in Houston.
Not in Houston. Well,
you know how it goes.
Yeah.
It's going to be warm today, and then tomorrow
It's not going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be very cold.
Actually, that's the case. It's amazing, isn't it? But anyhow, we are going to have a great show. Title of the show today is Democrats Define the Republican Tax Cut Scam as an easily understood theft. And that's what we have to do, because I tell you what I have a new fear. And that is, the new fear is we are going to see, Don, I don't know if you realize this or not, a lot of people are really going to see, after February comes in, they're actually going to see a little bump in their paychecks.
Oh, a little bump in their paychecks.
Yeah, a lot of folks, I went ahead and read some of the stuff and figure out how these things are going to be. And I think there's a possibility that progressives may be making a tad bit of a mistake here in just not explaining the totality of the tax bill, and because it's a horrendous bill, it is terrible.
Yes,
it is a theft. But you know, with everybody that's working daily, they get a little bit of extra money in their pockets, and you know, they suddenly may believe that things are a-okay. And once you lose them, that they believe maybe they were snowed, it's hard to get them back. So we can't allow that to happen. So the title of the show today, Democrats Define the Republican Tax Cut Scam as an Easily Understood Theft. Anyhow, folks, the Republicans have passed the largest heist on Americans. The tax cut scam is not well understood by most Americans. Worse, we run the risk of the heist being a short-term sugar high for some that could save Republicans from a blue wave that many believe is certain to come. So yes, we are expecting a blue wave, but you know what, folks? Don't count the chickens till the eggs hatch, because there is a whole lot in this bill, and there's a whole lot of there's a whole lot of ways people can talk about it to snow the American citizenry. But before we really get into the show, before I get to the program, I want to remind all our listeners that KPFT is a bastion of intelligent voices and programs. As a political activist myself, my favorites are Think Wing Radio with
Mike Honig, who will be back in 6 months.
What? I didn't. That is a new one to me. So what are we? What are we doing on Mondays at 9 these days?
Mondays at 9 we have, I believe it's Flashpoints.
Flashpoints.
Yes.
Okay, that's a programming change I wasn't aware of. Okay, we have Partisan Gridlock with
Jeff Berg on Fridays at 3 p.m.
And then, of course, we have Open Journal with
Dwayne Bradley and Marlo Blue on Mondays at 6 p.m.
And one of my favorites, Jazz Latino, Afro-Cuban Latin Jazz, at its best hosted by
Juan Flores on Tuesdays at noon.
Absolutely so. And now we go to the guy who has too many darn shows around here, but I love him because he's darn good at what he does. And that is our one and only producer here, Don. This is A Human Condition at 3 p.m., followed by the Free Minstrel Show with Don and Dwayne at 4 p.m. on Fridays on the KPFT HD3 side. And Don, you have other shows as well. Tell them about it till I can get it on my blog.
Okay, the other shows will be Really, which is tonight at 9 o'clock on the HD3 side, and then Really But Not Really, which is at 10 o'clock on the FM side.
Excellent, folks. And listen, Don, very intelligent millennial. You guys need to get up to speed with what he talks about. I mean, last week he had a nice Republican come around, which I think is very impressive. As I always tell people, we speak to everybody. I don't care your ideology, because you know what? We're all humans. Anyway, check out our schedule at kpft.org, where you can find programming from music to politics to medicine to the eclectic. KPFT is listener-supported public community radio station. So please remember that if you like what you hear, if you like what we do, please remember to go to kpft.org and drop a nickel, drop a dime, drop whatever you can, because we must keep, especially in these days, in these times, we must keep these public community stations alive. Why? Because you're not going to get you know what from you know whom, but we'll get to that. So please remember that if you like what you hear, visit kpft.org and ensure we remain a strong, viable community radio station that provides news, programming, and information not influenced by whom, Don?
The corporatocracy, and also Thinking Radio is at 9 o'clock on Mondays.
Oh, okay.
Just to make sure everybody knows.
Oh, okay, good. Just want to make sure. Anyhow, and then now we have, this is KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston, Texas. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your thoughts. Remember, this is Politics Done Right. You can reach us, hashtag Politics Done Right on Twitter. And please remember to go ahead and follow Egberto Willies on Twitter so that we can keep in touch, stay together. You can listen to the live stream, of course, on Politics Done Right with Egberto Willies on Facebook Live. And of course, you can go to kpft.org/listen if you want to stream the session. And of course, this is a call-in show, so do remember to give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. But folks, do you know what time it is?
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Okay, folks, this one is going hot on Daily Kos on Sunday. And the title is Democrats, explain why Republican tax reform bill is a tax cut scam, lest we lose the narrative. In other words, let's not sit back on our heels, folks. We have to be proactive and we have to be prepared. Here it goes. Democrats lead by 18 points in the generic ballot according to the most recent CNN poll. For those who don't understand what the generic ballot is they go ahead and they poll a whole bunch of folk. And when they poll these people, they say, who do you have a preference in voting for in this next election? Well, Democrats are far exceeding anything the Republicans have. 56% of respondents said they are most likely to vote for the Democratic candidate, while 36% said they would vote for the Republican. Pundits have been giddy reciting these polls. But folks, like I said last week, polls are a snapshot in time. I don't want Democrats to sit on their heels. I don't want Democrats or progressives or anybody else to sit back and just think, oh, this stuff in the bag, the blue wave is on. Unfortunately for Democrats, the election is still 10 plus months away. 10 months is an eternity in politics. And based on the pushback given the bill by Democrats and left-leaning pundits, those 18 points could evaporate. And there are other things that could present a reason for the evaporation of those points. There are rumors that there are planes leaving the United States from several bases. There are all kinds of rumors. There are all kinds of things that can change what people are thinking, how people feel, or what they're going to do. So what you have to do when you are ahead is you have to keep the pedal to the metal, and you have to get things fused into people's minds so that they are not easily reconverted to the bad. Recently, Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, Congressman Kevin Brady, appeared on Morning Joe, and I have the link to the Morning Joe show, which made me a bit irate after Congress struck a deal with the tax cut scam. It was evident that Congressman Brady intended to spin. Willie Geist asked him the wrong question as he pushed the carried interest issue without enough context. It's not about giving tax breaks to wealthy people. It's about theft from the masses. Yes, we promote this stuff as, oh, it's a giveaway to the rich. We're giving it to the rich. Look, all of that is true. But don't you think people have heard that a million times? Don't you think people hear Republicans, and as soon as they hear Republicans, they think the party of the rich? But guess what? They're still in power. All not only on the federal level, but throughout the states. You can't, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Continuing with the blog post. Guy should have told the listeners how much carried interest adds up to and ask the congressman why increasing the deficit by that amount, which the masses will pay for in interest on the debt, cuts in Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and infrastructure, is not class warfare. It is. That is how he should have framed the question. Just don't bring up, why are you still supporting carried interest? The average American person doesn't know what carried interest is. They don't. And I'm not saying they shouldn't or whether, I mean, they don't. Guys should have asked, and I'm losing my place here. Guys should have asked the congressman, why take money away from poor and middle class Americans to give to a huge windfall to people who already got rich off the labor of Americans? Framed in this manner makes carried interest a threat to the poor and middle class Americans rather than some esoteric benefit for the rich they do not understand. In other words, frame everything in a manner that tells the American people the truth. You're being screwed. But just telling them that the Republicans are giving tax cuts to the rich doesn't do much because they cannot see how that directly affects them. Democrats and progressives need to frame the narrative in a manner people can understand. Every left-leaning pundit on TV points to study after study to validate their point that the Republican tax cut scam will not juice the economy, nor will it be a net positive for the average Americans. Yes, they bring their studies, and we bring the correct studies, the right studies, the studies that are based on fact, the studies that are based on numbers. But Republicans have several studies too. Those of us in the know that the studies on the right are biased to ensure a particular outcome. The method to mislead is right out of the Powell Manifesto. We cannot continue to get beat by a document that is over 50 years old, which is what we do. To every busy working Americans, or to the everyday busy working Americans, they just hear competing studies. And to many then, their default acceptance is the one that fits their ideology. So that's all those guys who are following the Powell Manifesto have to do. The Democrats and progressives put out a study, the right wing put out a study, and then everybody defaults back to their ideology. Because you know what? A lot of those other studies, a lot of times, look plausible for the person who is not going to read it in detail and read all the caveats. And that is what we have to understand. That is what we have to understand. Democrats and left-leaning pundits need to spend the time to break down the issues. Why is it that tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations are not the best way to grow the economy, to create economic growth? Answer in a manner that makes sense and that anyone can understand. Look, I can give a very complicated argument, to why it doesn't work. I took Economics 101 and a few other economic courses. I can talk about the marginal propensity to consume. I can talk about when we have the Laffer curve, why the Laffer curves work and all these other issues. But if I'm speaking to the average American citizen, do you think they give a darn about Laffer curves, marginal propensity to consume and all of that, even though it affects them? But that is sort of an esoteric concept that doesn't sound like bread, butter, and all these things. I mean, when you have books like The Political Brain that comes, or Frank's book on liberals, it tells you that we have to find a way to communicate. It's not wrong to attempt to reach people where they are. It makes you no less or no more smart, okay, at all. Anyhow, folks, here's what I say. There are two parts. Why tax cuts for the wealthy and corporations fail to increase wages and employment? Here are 4 bullet points. Memorize them, and that's all you have to tell folks. Companies hire more people. Bullet point 1. Companies hire more people when they need help to provide products and services. Bullet point 1. Bullet point 2. Wealthy people already have money, so new money will not result in buying things they would not have bought before, so they will just bank the extra money. Bullet number 3. Corporations who receive tax cuts will not build more factories or hire more workers if people are not buying. They will simply give the money to their shareholders and executives. And bullet number 4. If companies are not hiring, there is no need to increase wages because there is always someone not working who will take the job. We've addressed why the wages are not going to go up. We have addressed why they're not going to hire any more people. And we address then that is why giving money to rich people is just you taking your money and giving it away. Now, the second part of the argument just requires 3 bullet points. Why tax cuts and credits for the middle class and poor work? And by the way, they're not the best, but if you want to get into the tax framing, that is where we're at. And bullet number 1 for that, when the poor and middle class get extra money, they either spend it or pay off debt, which leaves more money to spend. When the poor and middle class spend money that they would not have spent because they did not have it, they create additional demand in the economy. They buy clothes, cars, home appliances, etc. They go out to eat and go to the movies and much more. They create demand for a lot more products and services. And last bullet, and this is a coup de grace. Businesses and corporations must meet the expanding demand of people buying more stuff, of people going to restaurants. So what happens then? Companies buy or manufacture more products and services. People are buying. They hire more workers to fulfill the demand. That is how it works. It doesn't work by throwing money to rich people, because rich people are not going to build a factory until they have the demand, the reason to build the factory. They aren't going to hire more people until they have the demand, the reason to hire people. As simple as those are, a lot of people that are listening to the show right now know those things, right? But you go to the pundits on TV and they give it to you in marginal propensity to consume, and they give it to you in all these other things, right? And the average Joe Blow sitting down drinking his beer right after work, or his cup of coffee or whatever, he's going to say, there they go with that high and mighty type talk. I don't have time for that. And then you have Trump come in and say, I'm going to make America great again. I'm going to give you a job. And they get it. And they get it. Folks, we have work to do. Spinning by the Republican when he went on to Morning Joe, continued for 9 minutes. He got to tell his story for 9 minutes. Willie Geist looked like he saw headlights for 9 minutes because the Republican cleaned his clock by making it look like, you're only thinking about that. Real Americans want to hear this. Real Americans want to hear that. Willie Geist didn't come back and say, no, real Americans want to know, why are you stealing his money? Real Americans want to know what is in it for him. Real Americans want to know what's going to happen when he doesn't have his Medicare, his Social Security, her wherewithal for living. That is where we have to get to, folks. Spinning by the Republican went on for 9 minutes. It was mission accomplished, mission accomplished by the Republican spin machine. This is not uncommon. Except for Ali Velshi and Stephanie Rule and a few other hosts on cable TV, coverage of issues that inform Americans, allowing them to make good choices, is in short supply. While the bill will further steal from Americans, the GOP narrative unchecked could turn this boondoggle into a qualified political success in the long run. That's sugar high. Like I told many people, and I was speaking a little bit about that last night, there are a lot of Americans that are really going to see in February a little bump in their paychecks. A lot of Democrats are saying, but they're not going to believe that it's any good for them. You know what? No, they probably will. And you know what else? You have to tell them that this bill, when you see other bills of yours going up, you may save $50 on your paycheck, but your health insurance is going to go up by $70. You're going to see another $40 in your paycheck, but suddenly your sales taxes or whatever other taxes locally because of the theft of the federal government is going to go up. A lot of other fees are going to go up. So they're going to give you that $40 to cover several other $100 that you're going to be paying out of pocket. But unless you tell Americans that, unless you're honest in the way to tell them that, they do not have a clue. Folks, this is a call-in show. The telephone number, I want to hear from you, 713-526-5738. Lines are wide open, 713-526-5738. Come on in, John. Line number 2.
Good afternoon, Egberto. How you doing?
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. You're really a positive person. I've known you I've been actually
a long
met
time.
You in person, but
yes,
yeah. I mean, we've talked on the air 4 or 5 years now.
Yes,
probably 5 years probably, and really positive all the time. But I don't understand why you're so negative about the state of the Democrats right now, and I don't know why.
I'll tell you why when you're done.
Overstate Trump's popularity, because he is really unpopular.
Yes.
He is the most unpopular president.
Yes.
In this first year than ever. He just won Iowa 13 months ago. Right now, his numbers in Iowa are 35% approve, 60% disapprove. And this is by a poll by the leading pollster in the country, Ann Seltzer, who's a poli-sci professor.
Right.
I mean, and I can go on and on.
I want to explain why to you, Don, and then you can come back with some more questions, John, because I am with you. I mean, I'm glad that you preface that by stating I'm a very positive person, because I am, and I think that we can take control, and we should take control, etc. But what I'm watching here is, first of all, it is true that Trump is the most unpopular president. And it also is true that when he won the election as a very unpopular president as well. I mean, a very unpopular candidate as well. Of course, Hillary Clinton was very unpopular herself. But my thing here is that I want to make sure, and I think I told you some of this last week, John, I love the numbers that I'm seeing, and I'm very positive about the numbers that I'm seeing. My fear is people sitting on, like, I don't know if you saw the Willie Geist interview that I just spoke about, that I was very disappointed in. And the reason I'm very disappointed in is, the story about the tortoise and the hare. It's not about those numbers improving overnight. I can foresee these numbers improving a couple of points a month. And that is my concern, creeping up a couple of points a month. When they first see a little bit of money in their pockets, a little bit of XYZ, and you're well aware that for control of the House to move to blue, I think you need somewhere a net 10% in the generic poll, or somewhere in those numbers, in those areas, before you can actually get anything accomplished based on how redistricting has moved things around. So I think it is very important that you have somebody like myself out there telling folks, no, we cannot just sit back on those 18 points. No, we cannot just tell folks to go read the studies. We have to put it in bread and butter terms. And that's all I am doing here, John. That is all I am doing. That's all I want to do. I want to be that voice that's telling folks, don't sit on your laurels. Go ahead, my brother.
No, I agree with you, and I agree with you last week about that.
Right.
But, right now we already have, there's already 27 districts that Democrats have a lead in. All they need to do is flip 24.
Yes.
So, I mean, the polls, the latest polls that came out on Wednesday added 5 more to put Democrats over the hump.
Right.
Of course, it's 11 months to go.
Right. But here's the other thing that I want to do, John. And I want to cauterize in people's minds, right? Because there are a lot of things. This bill is terrible, but the way I think Republicans have an interesting way of writing bills, right? They front load the bills with certain things. And that's why in the beginning of the show, I spoke about the sugar high. There are a lot of things that's going to give folks a sugar high. Then we had the corporations that are complicit. I see that Don just wrote here that remember AT&T gave their workers $1,000, and we have a lot of these other companies that are doing things like that, because what they want to do is they want to show Americans that what Trump and these guys did wasn't a pill for them, but it was, it's going to help them out. Of course, if they're giving 200,000 people $1,000 a piece, you can imagine the tax break that they've gotten to go ahead and give that and their stock price not fall, right? So there's a lot of front-loaded stuff that we have to make Americans aware of. When we see these things, what's going to happen to healthcare? What's going to happen with the people that are going to lose their insurance? The 13 million or so that are going to lose their insurance almost immediately. We have to constantly keep the pressure on and let folks know that what caused that? The bill. What caused that? The bill. We have to keep that up, and that is what we are not. When I say we. That is what, I shouldn't say progressives, I should say that is what Democrats are not good at.
Well, I think that, you're not really giving enough credit. I mean, I agree that the protests weren't as strong as with the health care bill, but they were still pretty strong.
Wait.
I covered it.
Wait a minute.
I watched a lot of them.
I am not talking about the protest.
They were strong.
Sir? John?
Trump is going to keep being crazy. He's going to keep doing all these insane things that hurt people. And, and people will react. Like last week, when we were talking about Alabama, one of the references, I didn't have the numbers right in front of me, but Obama only won 10% of white voters in 2008, only won 15% in 2012. Jones won 30% of white voters, and some of that was because of Moore's predatory behavior.
Right.
But I would say at least half of it is because of the black people turned out in great numbers, and part of that is because of Charlottesville.
Yes.
It's because of Trump's attack on Colin Kaepernick. Trump's attack on Misha Johnson, whose husband was killed in Niger, and also his attack on Federico Wilson. So, I mean, people should take that personally, and so he's going to get what's coming to him. And I agree, we have to stay vigilant, but I believe we are. I mean, you look at all the candidates that are running. I mean, how did that form go on the 7th district? Did that go okay?
Oh, it went great. It's on the website as well, my friend. It went very well. And I spoke to Trevino. So Trevino will be on first part of next year on the Daily Politics and Right show.
All right.
But look,
good.
John, I got to go to some other calls, my friend. But here's the deal. You keep calling and you keep giving me them numbers. Okay, my brother?
All right.
Take care, buddy.
Okay.
All right,
Bye-bye.
let's go to number one. Barry, come on, Barry.
Look who's here, the most bleeding heart liberal in all of KPFT.
Who? Barry, you are the most
floor.
conservative brother on the planet.
The floor without interruption.
Okay,
Thank
please
you,
go,
John.
Barry.
I want the same half hour you gave John.
Oh, I can't give you as much time
This
as
is a great
John.
week for the Republican Party or what?
For you,
Now, for some reason, Logic 101 is resistant to your notion of higher taxes are better than lower taxes.
right?
And job-killing regulations are better than free markets. And suffocating taxes is better than lower taxes.
Oh, you know it
I got a
well.
problem when you say that giving to the rich.
Yes.
If the Rockefellers are making $100 million a year,
Who
they're
is?
paying, if the Rockefellers
Uh-huh.
are making $100 million a year,
Yes.
and they're paying $35 million in taxes,
Yeah.
the tax break that lowers it to $21 million is
Mhm.
only allowing the Rockefellers to keep more of their own money.
Oh, I love the
It's
way you
not
say
the
that.
government's money.
I love the way you say that.
Secondly, we can't take anything from the poor. The
Mhm.
poor have no money to give.
Okay.
But with the doubling of the child tax credit, the poor actually get money.
All right.
Okay, so question is this. Why would John Brown
Mhm.
at a plant
Mhm.
who gets a lower tax break,
Mhm.
keeps more money in his pocket,
Mhm.
turn around in 2016
Mhm.
and reinstall the Democrats who have vowed to kill the tax credit?
Right. Okay.
What sense does that make?
All right. Let me.
Last note is this. Well, the Democrats are so principally opposed to everything President Trump does,
Mhm.
you would concede some of it is just background noise. Because
Okay.
when you oppose, you soon get tuned out.
Yeah.
Even Maxine Waters gave President Bush credit what credit would due.
All right. Now.
The problem is such that you hate Trump so much.
Yes.
Let's do this. Let's do a real Trump attack.
Mhm.
Send the check back.
All right.
Send the IRS check back. You out there who get any extra money from Trump's lower taxes,
Mhm.
send the check back. And I
Okay.
want to hear from the bleeding heart liberals out there.
Okay, Barry, I gave you enough time. Be quiet and listen to me now, okay? All right, and be quiet and listen to what I'm going to tell you, because you know how you right-wingers like to interrupt. I don't want an interruption now, okay? Barry? All right. Is he still there?
I'm here. Go ahead.
Okay, good. Here's the deal. First of all, when you talk about the Rockefellers making $100 million, that is bunk. The Rockefellers don't make a penny. Workers make the money for the Rockefellers, period. End of discussion. Number two, the economy of the United States is a man-made economy designed to make monies for a few. Point, punto, final. As such, sir, it is my responsibility and the responsibility for others to ensure that this economic system created by a few to benefit a few does not pilfer the few. So when you talk about Rockefeller deserving $100 million and also being able to keep more of his $35 million that he would have otherwise paid in taxes, that wasn't his money in the first place. It was the money of the people who earned it for him. So therefore, we are talking from two different points of view. You are talking as if he has an inalienable right, given our economic system, to have that money that he made within this system. I'm telling you, absolutely not. And I'm saying the way to mitigate I didn't interrupt you, so be quiet. My brother, please be quiet so I can finish, and then I'll give you a chance to answer.
You need correction, sir.
Sir, you can correct me when it's your turn to speak, my dear friend.
Go ahead.
All right. Now, that said, given that it's a man-made economic system, the capitalist system has several flaws. And given that most Americans still want a capitalist economic system. I don't, but they do. I am a Democrat, and as a Democrat, I mean a Democratic person, little d Democrat. As a little d Democrat, the majority rules. The only way then to save capitalism, the only way then to have capitalism not be a scourge on humanity, not be a pilferer of people, is to ensure that we regulate it in such a manner that it cannot hurt people the way it has over several centuries. Go ahead,
Okay.
Continue.
Now, are you familiar with unearned income?
Of course.
If Rockefellers invested their own money in some risky real estate and they get dividends, rents, and interest, that's not some worker making the money.
Stop.
That is a return on investment.
The Rockefellers cannot own
investment, the Rockefeller.
Sir, my dear friend, okay, you answered, and my answer to you, the Rockefeller could not own anything. When these people came to America, they took it. Unless if we follow Trump's rules, who is telling the Israelis right now, or rather who are telling the Palestinians right now that it is okay to say, to hell with you, Jerusalem is the capital.
Okay,
then if we follow the same pattern in the United States, then I'm not done. My dear friend, I'm not done. I am not done. No, stop, sir. Please. Friend.
Problem with the Trump tax? Send the check back.
All right. Let me just, Barry, thank you for your call, my dear friend. Barry is one of, I like to speak to Barry because he gives me a chance to express certain things about the economic system. I wanted to go a bit further, but we're getting more people on the line, so I want to go to Julia on line 2. Come on, Julia, how are you doing? It's not on yet. Line 2 for Julia. For some reason, it's not on. Okay, line 2, Julia, are you there? Okay, maybe you have to hang up on Barry. Barry's still showing green. Okay, looks like we're having a little bit of technical problem. So while he's trying to figure that one out, because somehow the calls aren't coming in at this point. Who's on right now? Anybody is on? Can hear my voice? Can talk? That's called in.
This is Mike. Am I coming through?
Okay, Mike, you are coming through. So that's line 3 that came through. There's something kind of fishy here. Okay, Mike, come on in. I wanted to get to Julia, but for some reason it's not going through.
Julia, I guess, hang up.
Okay.
What a great show. What a great show. What a great host you are.
Thank you, sir.
I'm a little on the edge. I like some things about this. I thought it was fair to get rid of the mortgage deduction. Because as a renter, I can't take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
And also to get rid of the deduction for SALT, the state and local taxes. Like I lived in a different state in Texas. I love that I don't have to pay state income tax.
Right.
When I lived in Michigan and made $50,000, 3% of that had to go to Lansing, the capital of Michigan.
Right.
So I could deduct that instead of being taxed at $50,000, I could be taxed at $47,000.
Right.
But that seems kind of unfair to the people in Texas because they can't take advantage of that.
You know, you're making you just made some great points there, right? If you having a mortgage deduction gives a preference to people who own homes, and some people may just not want to own a home. So yes, there's sort of a disadvantage there. The argument for that though is that we're trying to we also use a tax system to dictate policy. We also use a tax system to try to modify behavior. And if you want to have more people own things, as you know, a lot of people build their family, their nest egg with a home. Okay, so if you as a government are trying to promote that, then you would give people incentives to do that. And so what I'm saying is the positive of a mortgage, the mortgage deduction is that you, Mike, if you want to take advantage of that deduction, you can buy a home. In other words, it's not something that is denied you. There are, however, certain benefits that are denied people that they'll never be able to take care of. Certain carried interest is something that the vast majority of Americans will never, ever be able to take advantage of. So I see what you're saying, and what you say make a whole lot of sense as far as what happens to the renters. But again, it is a matter of the government, we the people, trying to create more of an ownership type society. Anything else you want to add, Mike?
Oh, no, thank you. I'm enjoying the show.
Thank you.
I hope you can get a hold of Judy.
Thank you very much. Let's see if Julia is back. Is Julia back at all?
Hello?
Julia, come on in, Julia.
Yes, hi. I had a comment on what your previous caller said.
Yes, ma'am.
Several things. One, I would gladly return any refund if it would mean they will return themselves.
I love that comment.
Trump, if I return my refund?
Yes.
One.
Yes.
And two, I would like to know how much is this wonderful caller getting back versus the companies? You know, what is the percentage? And three, I don't care how risky a venture a rich person invests his money. He doesn't make money by himself. He still needs workers, even if it's a piece of real estate. what makes it worthwhile is because people want it. People want to rent from it. He still needs people. The fact that he risked his money and invested in real estate, he got paid if it's profitable. That's my comment.
Miss Julia, you are a very smart woman, and let me expand on something that you just said there, right? Because you judge people by what they hold dear, right? And in this country, the politicians that supports giving capital gains better treatment, they give working income, tells a big story, right? Let me tell you something. When that person goes out to build a bridge, he risks his limb and his life, or her limb and her life. When somebody goes out and builds a street, when a doctor goes out and heals the sick, when all these people go out and do these things, I'm going to tell you something, they risk something. They risk their life as well. But somehow in this country, when you risk capital, you get all these benefits from risking capital. But when you risk your life, when you risk humanity, no big deal. So, I mean, it tells you a lot where your values are based on how you treat people's taxes, based on how you treat people's income, based on how you treat people's wealth. So what you just said, Julia, is 100% correct. Thank you so kindly for calling in. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I just agree with you 100%. This country tells us what they value, money.
Thank you.
Above all else. That's it.
Thank you very much, Julia. You have a wonderful day, okay? All right, let's go to Tom, line numero 5.
Hello, Egberto. I usually comment with Mike Koenig on Mondays, but I missed him today.
Okay, so talk to me. Talk to me, Tom.
So I volunteered you. Okay, there's a couple things I'd like to speak about. One is, I've been thinking about this a lot in reference to the last election.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you can tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I think the reason why Trump won was because the states that had Republican governors are the ones who appoint the electoral voters. And is that wrong?
Right, no, that's not okay. The electoral college in all but one or two states, I don't remember. I think it's one state, which is Wisconsin. All right, whoever wins the popular vote in that state gets all the electoral votes in that state. Okay, meaning that when the electoral college is comprised of either Democrat or Republican electors. Okay, and what happens is whenever you win, all that state's electoral votes go to you, unless you are. I think it's Wisconsin or which one is this?
Wasn't it Ohio?
No, I don't think it's Ohio. It's there's a little area. I think it's in two states. In Maine, I think it's Maine and another one that where you don't get the full count of electoral college. But that said, the reason Trump won, Tom, is because he won in the correct states. Remember, he didn't win the popular vote, but he won in the right places. And remember, a lot of blue states, the votes they're high in numbers, but they're very concentrated. And we have a very undemocratic way of electing a president. I think it's arcane, it's undemocratic, and I think it is wrong. It's an aberration of the Constitution, in my humble opinion. Don, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, it's Maine and Nebraska.
Maine and Nebraska. There it is. It's Omaha, I think, is an area that has that we always get a blue vote out of. Anyhow, so yes, Tom. So that is why he won. He won Michigan, Iowa, Ohio, and those electoral votes were just enough to take him over the top without having to win the popular vote, and that's why he won.
Oh, don't forget Pennsylvania now.
Pennsylvania, he won as well, yeah, and shouldn't have won that either, yeah.
Okay, second of all, in reference to these, what a lot of people don't understand, and you're putting it out today when I first tuned into you a little after 3 o'clock, was that when all these companies bring their money over here, they're not going to bring all of it over anyway. They're going to keep a lot of it over there.
Right.
And, of course, then they get charged, if it goes through, they're going to only get charged 15% income tax on the money they bring in.
Yeah.
That's the same thing Reagan did.
Yes.
And the trickle-down didn't work then. It's not going to work now. But at the same time, all these bonuses these people are starting to get, we're going to give a bonus this year, $1,000 bonus this year and a whole bit. Most of these companies are going to forget all about that bonus next year.
Right. They won't give it. But
well, basically, they're putting $1,000 in your pocket. Oh, great! I got $1,000. I'll go ahead and spend $1,000 now, and I'll eat the bullet in 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Well, I got to pay more than $1,000 extra income tax.
Thank you. But you know what is so funny as well, Tom, is that all those $1,000 that are going to be given out, guess what? They're tax deductible.
No,
so it's not
but guess what?
It's not really.
I filed income tax here the last several years. Under Reagan, I used to fill out a long form back in the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And when Reagan got in, I was getting about $3,200 back out of about $4,000, a little over $4,000.
Right.
Which was fine. Didn't bother me. But as soon as Reagan said, well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to give you a tax break. So you can just takes a lot less time to fill out an easy form than it does long form. We're going to make sure that you guys can fill out the easy form instead of the long form to save you time.
Right.
The problem is, ever since then, I've had to pay $500 a year extra in taxes.
Look, let me tell you something. The way this system is set up, or the way these guys do it, they go out there and make sure that the people are the afterthought. That is why, if you take a look at what's happening, that is why it expires after a few years, right? Because they have to fit it within the $1.5 trillion budget amount so that it can go through reconciliation instead of using the 60 vote majority. And to do that, and they also wanted to make sure that they kind of made it permanent for I think it's funny that they say it's permanent for the corporations, because the law is permanent under the current written law. But again, that can be revoked back if the Congress changes, all of that can be revoked. Of course, the companies are going to penalize Americans by making sure that the stock market drops and making sure that, it's going to be nasty. But if the fact of the matter is, right now, what we need in America are people who are willing to put themselves on the line now, because they're pilfering us left and right. Anything else you want to add, Tom, before we go to the next call?
Believe it or not, I did, but it went in one ear and out right out the next. So I'm going to sign off and listen to you until the end.
Thank you so kindly, my friend. You have a great day, okay?
And you too, Edward. Enjoy your holidays.
You too, my friend. All right, let's go to MOD, line number 4. MOD, you actually made it in before 10 minutes before the call. Come on in, brother.
I was lucky. I called when the lines were all open. But hey, it is what it is. No, we're listening to our favorite call-in people, and to argue 40 years of Reagan trickle-down economics, that someday, out of one of those several decades, that the purpose for the tax breaks that started then will go into effect. So our attention span must not be that good, because I remember when that started, right? And we saw the defunding of all the New Deal programs and such, and then what happened? We had Reaganomics.
Yes, we did.
Reaganomics, and it was really in full stride. By the time Pappy was in office, right? So about 10 years of Reaganomics, we saw what happened. The transfer of wealth had a bad effect in it.
A profound effect. And we're still living it. We still could never get rid of the darn thing, MOD. We're still living through Reaganomics. Unfortunately, we're still living through it. Obama couldn't get rid of it. Clinton couldn't get rid of it. Pappy Bush. I don't know how many people realize this. And Edward, I'm coming to you next. I don't know how many people realize this, but people give George Herbert Walker Bush a hard time. In the book that I wrote called, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, I actually place some kudos in for Brother Bush. And the reason I did that is because he went against the Republican orthodoxy. And I think that was so very important. He actually...
Do you think that, it hasn't, okay, so you try to raise tax a little bit before he left because he had to.
Yes.
And it's not because I think it was his good nature. I think it's because the pilferization of what Pappy and them did when they went into Russia, when the guy with the red nose, the wall came down, and Gorbachev and all that. So there's another conversation what Pappy Bush does. I think you know where I would go with this as far as a lot of bad stuff.
Right.
You know, all in all, people will remember, especially the old folks, that when Junior did the thing they're getting ready to do right now, they will remember that $1,300 tax break.
Yeah, he actually sent people a check. He sent people a check. Yes.
That's all they're going to remember. So you can get, you know, clowns to say, hey, but at the same time, this is it. This is the final tax break that needs to be done. There's nothing left. The reason why there's no jobs here is because they all went afar because it's where cheap labor is. There's no manufacturing here in this country.
Right. And look, there's a big problem right now, right? And that is the way Wall Street works and the way our financial system works. All they think about is something called growth. Let me tell you something. Let's say you own a chain of grocery stores. And that grocery store reaches a steady state. What I mean by reaches a steady state is that it sells a product and it makes a standard, let's say 3 or 5% on the products that it sells, right? For Wall Street, that isn't good enough, right? Because they don't want steady state. They always want growth. So what that means is that's not good enough to just have basic growth. What they want is that.
Who owns this Congress?
Say that again?
Who owns this Congress? Who owns this establishment?
The plutocracy. I mean, it's the businesses that own the big businesses, not the regular mom and pop stores.
Capitalism is nothing more than modern day slavery, unregulated capitalism.
I've already said that. I've written about that. I've look, there was a time, and I got to go after this to Edward, but I want to say, I want to say this because this is a touchy situation when you talk about slavery and all that kind of stuff, right? But
modern day, brother.
I've used the term, and I think it's important. I said, there was a time, and to my white American brothers and sisters, listen to this right. There was a time, because this is a humanity kind of a thing, right? There's a time that you could say, what kept white people, the vast majority of white people in check, even though there was a plutocracy attacking them as well. What kept them in check is knowing that they weren't slaves. Maybe they were indentured servants. They weren't slaves, but they could also look at how things could be. You just had to look at a black person. Let me finish.
If you follow the bouncing
let me finish. MOD, let me finish.
Way past that.
MOD,
I know you gotta go, but just real quick.
MOD, no. Let me finish what I'm saying, please, my friend. Okay. So there was a time that you could say that. At least I'm not one of those, and that could keep you in check. But what has happened to America right now is, as you mentioned, we are in modern day slavery. And I don't care if you're an executive for a low-level executive for a company or whatever. Right now, you're at the behest of a very few people in America, period. And that is slavery. You may be one of the comfortable slaves. Even back in the early slavery days, you had the comfortable slaves, the one that lived in the house, the one that prepared the meals, and they had some modicum of they were a little bit better than those that were on the outside. And that's what
Egberto, you know, come on, man, that there was more than 90% of the slave owners were French, Spanish, Hebrew, African. The white card they're using right now is a common, very used narrative. They're just going through the deck, and white man's guilt is full tilt. And we're going to blame
MOD, I'm going to have to cut you right there because you and I are going to have to get into that conversation the next show because I got to get Edwards in. But you know what? You brought up a subject that I do want to talk about because it's important. All right, let's go to Edward. Come on in, Edward.
Hello. Yeah, I agree with a lot of what y'all are saying.
Uh-huh.
We're kind of in a form of slavery.
Yes, sir.
But I think, and I can sympathize with your view because I'm also African American, so I understand some of the abuses of capitalism.
Uh-huh.
But I don't think y'all are seeing a point of view that a lot of it is socialism. If you look at socialism historically or around the world, countries that are purely socialist, they have a lot of issues. I mean, like national socialism, that's what Nazis were, you know what I mean? So I think when you were just talking about slavery, I see the slavery in this country is like debt slavery. You have a imbalances in our banking system that I think you spoke of some of that stuff in other shows where, there's a lot of debt burden on the consumers.
Right.
That, to me, if you look at sharecropping and that kind of stuff, it was always around debt.
Right.
You have to look at our banking system. And that, to me, is like socialist, where the government is manipulating or has their hands in the banking and it's overtaxing people. I don't think you're seeing the connection between.
Actually, I do, Edward. I really do. And you're. Let me say one thing, because I think when we get into capitalism, socialism, and all these other things, right? A lot of people put up a big wall, right? I am not a socialist. I'm not a capitalist, or whatever. Well, I can tell folks I consider myself a democratic socialist, and what I mean by that, and let me explain what I mean by that, because it's important. I think all of us want to be democratic socialists, and we want to use capitalism as a tool. We want to use these different isms as a tool. Capitalism works fine to build certain bridges. Corporations work fine to do certain things and then come out of existence. That's how they were designed in the first place. So I am saying, I am not an absolutist. Where socialism work, I want it to work. Where capitalism work, I want it to work. There's no pure economy. You see what I'm saying, Edward? And,
yeah. I think, like the Reaganomics, I agree that stuff doesn't work, but I've read like Adam Smith, one of the founders of capitalism.
Right.
Even in his book, he says when corporations were tending to abuse, would abuse the public.
Yeah.
He says it in a certain way, but
Edward, I don't think there's a lot of distance. I gotta go. That's the reason I interrupted you. I'm so sorry, but I don't think there's a lot of distance in what we're talking about. But let's contemplate talking more about this on another edition of the show. Okay, guys, I really gotta get out right now.
Okay.
Thank you so kindly for calling, my brother. And folks, this is one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willis. Thank you so kindly for listening, and we are out.
Thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. You can personally reach me by sending an email to egberto@politicsdoneright.com. Remember, Egberto is spelled EGBERTO. Change starts with you. 90.1 KPFT gives you information not tainted by corporate interest. Please visit kpft.org and contribute. Let's ensure continued access to real information and news remain available to all. Again, thank you very much for listening to Politics Done Right.